Hi, welcome back. Thank you for being with us again. It's our fourth episode, sadly last episode for now anyway, with Lauren Pearson. I love this story. I love this part of the story, especially because we're catching the Pearsons still in the middle of a journey. You know, they were rock stars. Andrew was sort of at the top of his game and very beloved in a big community in the Episcopal Church. And Lauren was on the sidelines, but building her business, kind of creating it, you know, in the shadows all the time. And then they hit rock bottom. Their lives were shattered, completely fell apart. And what you hear in this episode, I think, is so beautiful on a number of levels. You see a couple really working to listen to each other and one picking up where the other one is having a tough time. Andrew was having a really tough time. He was exhausted. He said, I just can't keep going. Lauren, who had been in the sidelines all of their marriage, was able to pick up and became the major provider for their lives, became the one leading the family, caring for the girls. So take a listen to this. It's so encouraging. It just fills me up, I guess, in belief in what a partnership and a marriage can be. So join us today. I think this will be a joyful one. Hey, Lauren.
So Andrew said, I'd like to move back to Virginia. And I was like, let's do it. You know, I mean, I was very open to it. I mean, I don't know. I love Virginia. Everyone from DC wants to move to Charlottesville. Like, it just is great. I mean, I don't know. It's wonderful. What's not to love? And we found this property, and that was kind of gentle. And so, yeah. And then Andrew was going to do consulting. But he is such an extrovert that, like, it just wasn't, you know, he needs more stimulus. Who knew that, like, moving me to a farm with 155 acres would be the best ever? I love it. It wasn't even my dream, really. And moving him was kind of hard, but he'd been through so much. I mean, so much unraveling. And then this is the part that really gets to be precision with him, is that he was up for jobs that he should have gotten with no problem. And it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And that was really difficult for him to try to pursue new career opportunities and have so many doors shut. And it was with such precision that was happening. I mean, these doors, I do believe, were intentionally closing for him. And that was hard. And it was hard because when we moved here, it was the expectation that we would go back to being dual income. You know, being the financial head of household for your family it is a lot of pressure. And so I think if you aren't or haven't been, and 95% of women will end up as the financial head of household, so it's just my turn, there is incredible pressure in that.
So here you are 2 years out now, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. 1 year out when you moved, basically.
Yeah.
So once again, a second time around, your life is, I mean, you might not want to call it falling apart, but it is nothing like it has looked even in the year prior.
Right.
You get to Virginia, this beautiful place. You're having to work like a crazy person to support everybody. And Andrew, and this was something he could never have expected, nor you, everything he went up for that he could have easily have gotten, he didn't get. It was almost nonsensical. Here's this man with this huge experience. Here's this man who was a rock star. And nothing he applied for did he get.
Right.
So what happened to Andrew?
It was so hard
in that time.
I mean, it was the saddest thing that I've ever watched happen to anyone. But it's weird because nobody feels really sorry for you if you're the financial head of household and you have a successful business. You know, it's like it's not a sad story. But that doesn't mean that it's not without a ton of pressure and, like, just a ton of stress, which is really where we've been. And it was so hard on Andrew because he has such a gift that now isn't being utilized. And it really wasn't, there were so many Like, it was such a in some ways it felt like such a random walk. It was just the time, the circumstances. Okay, you're out, and then he really has had to rebuild who he is. And I think he's done a really good job, and he's learned so much.
And for the first time, you're not on the sidelines. You're not
Right.
creating in private. This is not the story that your life was built on either.
No, and that was
The
hard for
spotlight's
me.
all on you.
Yeah, and I don't know if I do that well in the spotlight. You know what I mean? It's like it just wasn't what I ever wanted. And that was what I had to work through too, is like I always blamed everyone else for the Southern values, but turns out I held them too. It's like I didn't want to be the financial head of household. Like, that wasn't fun, because it's not fun. I mean, it's not. If you are divorced or all of a sudden taking care of your parents' assets for the first time or whatever. But now
Or widowed.
Widowed. I mean, and it was like I'd always relied on Emily for that because she was a widow. And so she always she understood it so differently than I did. And, oh man, it's so difficult. And I have the greatest level of empathy now for my clients that have to go through it or have to transition into it, because it's like landing a plane. Like you just have so much that you have to learn all at once. And
So you told me a couple of really beautiful stories, poignant stories. And, I love that we're telling your story right now, and we're in the middle of your story. I mean, there is so much more to come in this story, and I can't wait to do this again in a couple of years and see where it's grown. And, my heart just wept for Andrew and just what he's had to do to kind of build himself back and to have some healing. And in the process, his identity as a minister, a priest, a rock star in the church is not there to be rebuilt. Not right now. Who knows what Andrew's for next? But one time I called you and I said, so what's Andrew up to? And you said, well, I think if you asked him, he'd say he's a farmer now.
yeah,
That was one time. And then something really interesting started to percolate. Tell me about that.
yes. So we moved to this farm, and I did tell him, I'm like, we can move to the farm, but like my one thing is you cannot be a farmer. Like that, I'm not going to work like I'm working, and then you're like a gentleman farmer. That's not going to be good for a marriage. And it really wasn't actually very good for a marriage. So like, I don't recommend that for anyone. But what we live right outside of Charlottesville in this cute town called Gordon. We live outside of the town, but there's this cute town called Gordonsville. A lot of creative female artisans and like businesses, really neat place. And there is this little restaurant with the doors just kind of locked. And we were so excited when we moved here because we thought they were just closed for cleaning or something. And then it turns out they were just closed. And so after, so many doors shut, so many things that he would have liked to have done, didn't pan out. He needs social interaction. He said, we were just walking by it one day and he goes, what if I open this? That would be awesome. I was like, I don't care what, you just want your spouse to be happy and fulfilled. And like, I did need him to work. There was something inside of me that needed him to work too. I don't know if that's still selfish, but it is what I did need that. And so he said, well, let's figure it out. And we have a few restaurants as clients. And so I was familiar with P&Ls. Like I felt like I could figure out how to help him make the business work financially. And that's been a fun thing for us to do. And then it just like, I was part of this women's networking group. I said, hey, we're not well networked in this space, but we need a chef. The most fantastic chef had just moved from Boston and was looking for work and is very
An
young.
award-winning chef.
Yeah, so talented. And so anyway, it's this great little restaurant. If you're in this area, you should come see it. So anyway.
Well, a couple of things on that. So the name of the restaurant is Pré de Pré, right? French name,
Yes.
Pré de Pré.
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means near the meadows. Our farm is called the Meadows, and so we thought that would be a fun take on that because it is
I love
actually
that.
near the meadows. And we
And
use,
then
some of
go
our
ahead.
what we're growing here goes to the restaurant, which is really neat. So that's kind of a
And
neat
then
thing.
you've talked about how Andrew, goes to the restaurant, I guess, every day, and he serves tables and he talks to everybody. And then it's become like a ministry almost. People come there and say, "This feels like church," because it
Yes.
is so warm. And he has this chance for interaction, and he does have a chance to really deeply get to know this community, and in his way, listen to what they're going through, listen to what their families are going through. And he's such a supportive, uniting force through this restaurant in this small community.
It's amazing. I mean, because one time, it was pretty early on, and he said, Lauren, I went from leading a congregation of 4,000 to waiting tables. I said, and I just looked him in the face. I said, it's not that different. I said, we still don't have our weekends, and everybody tells us what to do. So it's kind of the same thing, Then I just walked away. But anyway, it's like that. I mean, and it was so sweet when this table said, it feels like y'all are like people we'd meet in church. And I think it's so neat how God can just like use you if you're open in any capacity at any time, and just to be open to those moments and what he's doing in a different season, I think has really been so special, actually. I've loved it.
Here you are running this really successful, now quite large wealth management firm. And now you have all female employees. You didn't when I started with you, but it is a female run firm. Again,
Yeah.
I think the numbers are something like only 14% of most wealth management firms are women.
Yeah.
And yours is completely the opposite. And just so unexpectedly, and you didn't say it like to brag on yourself or anything. You were like, I'm so proud of Andrew. I'm so proud of what's happening in this restaurant. And sometimes I go and I wait tables at night or I clean up and I'm like, wait, what? You've got 3 children to raise. You are, the managing partner director of this really large firm that is, you've got a lot of people to take care of. And you wrap it up at 7 o'clock and run down to your husband's restaurant to wait tables. And just the humility in that and the support of your husband, I think, is phenomenal.
Well, thank you.
And in closing, I want to ask one thing. We haven't lingered very long here. How are your girls doing? Lots of transitions for 3 little girls.
Lots of transitions. And every one of them has handled it differently, as you would expect. They're all becoming young women and, seeing the world through their eyes and their own points of view. And so, I think, I have, there's this neat example that people use that some kids are like dandelion kids. You can kind of like throw them anywhere and they'll thrive. And then there's some that are like orchids, and like they kind of have to have the right environment. And I think we have some that are dandelions and one that's an orchid, and we're working through all of those types of things. I mean, that you just would work through. And I think it's, resilience, you can't teach it unless there's moments that are hard. And I think that that's what they're learning more than anything. And it's a tough lesson, but I'm so glad that they're learning it, even though it's really hard. They definitely miss the comforts of their old life. Like it was just more comfortable there, than it is here. And for lots of reasons. I mean, we live on a farm, and so, there's just that's a whole podcast too that we could do on farm living.
But, Lauren, you are, this, I didn't set this up for you as a survivor's journey because as you have been surviving, you and Andrew and the girls, just this horrific thing that turned your life upside down and, took away his identity, and you've had to rebuild all of that. At the same time, as a woman who sat on the sidelines for most of her life, you've built this phenomenal business. So, you're holding the 2 cups. One is, oh my gosh, I got to survive this thing. And the other cup is, look what's happening with this business, and you're so proud of it. But in the survivorship of your journey, do you, and I know you're in the middle of it, you're not really where you'd say, okay, I'm on the end of this, but do you have anything you'd say to our listeners that are tools you've held on to more than anything else?
I think the really important thing that I'm glad that I did is that you have to listen to and let yourself go through all of the feelings, right? Like if you're sad, you just need to be sad, and it's not going to be sad forever. It really isn't. But like if you're sad, you just need to be sad and name it what it is and not feel like you have to be perfect or put together. If you're angry, and that's a really hard one because those women were not supposed to be, like, I remember my best friend being like, you got to stop being angry. I don't even think I was angry for that long, but I was. I mean, I was definitely angry. It's like, let yourself do that. I mean, and that's what I said to her is I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be angry forever, but I definitely am angry today. And so I'm just going to have to be that. I wasn't going around yelling at everyone, or anything like that. But, and I think it's really important to tell the truth to yourself more than anything, and then also the people around you. That I think has been very helpful in my relationships with my girls and like us all collectively healing. Is being
100%.
really honest about being truthful. So
Getting transparent, and there are no secrets. It's been my byline for the last 4 years with my boys is no secrets, guys, and I'll be as transparent and as vulnerable as I can be with you on this journey. But your story, and as I keep saying, it's got a ways to go here, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen. It's such a gift to anybody who hears it to listen to this story and see how you've held a family together, you've built a business, you've survived tremendous shame and embarrassment and identity crises and all the things that go with that. I'm really grateful that you were willing to do this. Thank you so much.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share,
Absolutely. Thank you for being a beautiful friend. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lauren.